No.
Okay, so the Google form has added Tom's details to our spreadsheet, and what it's done is it's taken Tom's surname on the spreadsheet and it's created a dynamic link to a folder that is generated within our central system. So that folder is created according to a template, which is really handy because it means every student on our system has exactly the same template folder. So we know exactly where data is, we know exactly where data goes as we receive things like medical evidence. If we get emails from a student, we can save them to the emails folder. So as well as generating a folder to a Proforma, it also does individual documents within those folders. So we can see we've got one here which is probably the most used, which is why it's in the initial folder, and you can see up here it's labelled it with all Tom's details just in case we need to print off or we need to share any of those documents with colleagues. But probably the best way to show you this is, so every student that needs things like exam adjustments in the classroom would have what we call a student support plan. So here's Tom's, and you can see that it fills in all Tom's details, which department. So they're all fields, that information that we've collected at the initial point of contact, and it's put them in the relevant sections of various documents. So that on its own has saved so much time. So let's pretend we're working on a student support plan for Tom, and I decide that Tom should have 25% extra time in his exams. Okay, so that's a typical recommendation that we might make. And from that point, I can then share that document. I mean, now we're working with the power of Google Docs rather than a trilogy, basically, but now we can share that directly with our exams office. So the kind of process that would take hours, perhaps even days to facilitate before, we can now do in quite literally seconds. One other thing that I forgot to mention as well was when we added you to our system, Tom, we've got an aeroplane going off, so
just speak louder.
When we added you to our system, Tom, we use another function called Formule. I don't know if you've Formule, isn't it? Which, let's wait for this to go.
Bloody helicopter. That's going to go into rescue something.
It's the ambient world.
Yeah. Here comes a horse on the roller skates. Never worked with animals.
So when we added Tom's details to the system, Formule, when it received those details, it automatically sent Tom an email giving them an overview of what his agreement should be with disability services, and asking him to complete another online form, which is our consent to share policy. And all that needs from him is to click a yes, I agree for my details to be shared with my academic department, with my funding body. So again, all the things that we could have been waiting days, often weeks, trying to chase up students, sending them emails to try and get their consent to share in order to facilitate lots of the work that we do, is now done very automatically. And lots of students have their emails accounts synced with their phones, so they will get that email instantly. Certainly if I'm sat in the office with them, they'll get a beep on their phone, they hit a button on their phone, and we've got their consent to share.
And that's then exactly that data, the sort of thing that gets lost between the cracks.
Exactly. And then that data is automatically recorded on our spreadsheet, so at a glance we can see if the student has or hasn't provided us consent to share, and there are no faults with it. I mean, we initially ran two systems. We ran a manual system and the automatic one, and we've been running the automatic one for probably 6 or 7 months now, and it hasn't failed once.
Great. Good
so brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And also probably my favourite thing is when I do case notes. So let's imagine I've just sent your student support plan to the exams office. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I like using little add-ons. So here I will use an add-on that's called Text Factory, and I've set it up so I'll add today's date, and it will automatically sign my initials because multiple people will be making.
Yeah.
So rather than having to spend time putting that in, and
so what's that add-on called?
That's called Text Factory.
Text Factory.
And it's a good way to quickly input dates, sign-off forms.
Or just frequently use text.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Because I'll be doing this, maybe 50 times a day.
Yeah.
So let's pretend today I sent SSP to exams.
Yeah.
Now, if there are other people in my team that I feel need to know about that, I'd love using the comments function, although I don't often use it from
insert comment. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
So I normally right-click there, but and then maybe I'll share that with my colleague Claire like that.
Yeah.
All right. So if I've got an action for Karen, administrator to do, so perhaps she needs to chase up some medical evidence, or she needs to get in contact with the funding body, I'd put my action in, and I'd put an action for her to complete. I'd comment, and then of course she can resolve that down here, and it keeps a record. So it just in terms of an activity monitor for us, that's really good. Really handy stuff.
Yeah, well, I like the add-on because quite often you'd think of Interface to do that, but that's actually much easier. Isn't it? Yeah. I'm
trying to persuade everybody else to use it as well.
Yeah. But also, I mean, using the comments, and that's using the tools for what they're good at. Yeah.
And we use that to generate funds. So student comes and they for example, last week we needed to generate a taxi allowance, and the best way to do that was to fill out the relevant pro forma and then tag the powers that be that sign off that account via the Google Forms.
Yeah, good stuff.
And then as soon as they do, I get an email saying, they've responded, and then I can send it off.
Yeah, great. Well,
and I'm sure it does much more than that. But the possibilities are endless, aren't they? It's just power of the brain, creativity, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Cool.
So there you go.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.